Hi Algebra 1 students, this video is to help you complete the notes/practice for today. So for today, you're going to watch this video and you can either print out the notes that were posted or you can just handwrite the problems down. They're numbered 1 through 6 and then you'll write your answers down and box them. In this video, I'm going to do the odd numbered problems and then you're going to go through and do the even numbered problems. So let's get to it. So number 1 says p squared plus 3p minus 18 equals 0. And the directions say I need to solve with the quadratic formula. So let's review what the quadratic formula is really quick. Let's write it down on our paper. We're going to write down, it usually says x equals, but we have p's this time. So instead of using x, we could also call it p. But it equals the opposite of b plus or minus big square root b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And normally quadratics are written as ax squared plus bx plus c, and we always want them to equal 0. So the a is in front of the x squared, the b's with the x's, and the c is the one with no x's, and we have to remember to take their signs. So in the problem we have, there is a 1 right here, so that's my a value, and my b is going to be a 3, and my c value, it's the whole thing, it's the negative and the 18. So I'm going to write that down. A equals 1, b equals 3, c equals negative 18. So I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to plug them in to the quadratic formula. So these numbers right here, I am plugging into this formula right here. And instead of writing x equals, I'm going to write p equals because it has p in the problem this time. So p is going to equal the opposite of b. So b was a positive 3. So now b is going to be negative 3 because of the opposite, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so of 3 squared, minus, we always use parentheses to plug things in, 4 times a was 1, and my c value is a negative 18. And the whole thing is going to be divided by 2 times my 1. And last week we talked about this thing called the discriminant. It's the thing under the square root. We're going to simplify this up so we know how many answers we should be looking for. So let's do that really quick. So 3 squared is 9 minus, I'm just going to type in my calculator, 4 times 1 is 4. And then 4 times negative 18 is what I'm going to put in my calculator. Makes a negative 32, and the minus make it become a plus. So this piece under the square root is going to equal 41. And so I'm going to have 2 answers because that's positive. So let's keep simplifying. So now I have p equals the negative 3 plus or minus square root of that 41 all over 2 times 1 on the bottom is 2. Square root 41 doesn't have a pretty square root, so you can type them in your calculator and get the 2 decimal versions. I'm going to make everything a little bit smaller real quick. And so what we're going to type on our calculator is the following. We're not going to type the p equals, but I'm going to write it down. So we're going to write p equals, and then you would type in your calculator, negative 3 plus the square root of 41 all over 2. And your other answer is going to be p equals negative 3, and then we do the minus sign, minus the square root of 41 all over 2. So let me type this in the calculator real quick, and then I will put a picture so you can see it. So you can see on the top, I typed the first one. I used that control divide and got the fraction thing to show up. And on the top, I put negative 3 plus the square root of 41 all over 2, and then I typed the bottom one right here, negative 3 minus the square root, and here are my 2 answers. So the top one is approximately 1.7, and the bottom one's negative 4.7. So you have solved it, and you have found your two solutions. So now you can do number 2 because it's just like number 1. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go do number 3 next. Okay, so let's do number 3. Negative x squared plus 2x equals 1. So be very careful. You got to remember this. Must equal 0. Even when we're factoring, pretty much anytime before you touch a quadratic, it has to equal 0. So to make this happen, you draw your line. I minus a 1, I minus a 1 over. I have to get this side over here. I need this side over here that I'm boxing. It's got to equal 1 or equal 0. So to undo a positive 1, I'm going to subtract the 1 over. So now I'm going to get a negative x squared plus a 2x and then minus that 1. This 1 right here that I'm boxing, it doesn't have any x's on it, so I can't combine like terms, equals 0. I'm going to write the quadratic formula down for us again. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So in this problem, a, b, c, a is going to equal, this is a negative 1 out front, there's a 1 right there. B is going to equal 2, and c equals the negative 1. So now I'm going to plug this into my formula. I'm going to have x equals opposite of b. So b was 2, so the opposite of b is opposite of 2, which is b, is negative 2, plus or minus the square root of my 2 squared minus 4 times the negative 1 times the negative 1, all divided by 2 times a negative 1. I'm going to look at my discriminant first, this thing right here. I'm going to do piece by piece. So 2 squared is a 4 minus 4. This negative 1 times this negative 1 right here makes a positive 1. So now I have 4 minus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. Well, the square root of 0 is just 0. There's not two versions. And so I'm only going to have one answer here. So let's go back and plug this in. So I'm going to make everything smaller really quick. So I'm going to have x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 0 all over negative 2. Because right here, this right here, positive 2 times a negative 1 makes a negative 2. So the square root of 0 is 0. So I really have x equals negative 2 plus 0 over negative 2. And I have x equals negative 2 minus 0 all over 2. It doesn't matter if I add 0, subtract 0. Those are going to be the same. Because what I really have is x equals negative 2. Negative 2 plus 0 is negative 2. And negative 2 minus 0 is negative 2. Over a negative 2. And a negative 2 divided by a negative 2 is just a positive 1. So I only have one solution. So now I've done number 3. You can go do number 4. Again, make sure you make it equal 0. And now we're going to do number 5, and then you'll be able to do number 6. So for number 5, x squared minus 9x plus 21 equals 0. So it equals 0, so we're good. It's always the first step. To find the discriminant, it's just the piece under the square root. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. The piece under the square root right here, that's the discriminant. That's this thing right here. So in our case, a, b, c, and there's that 1 right there. So my A equals 1, my B equals -9, and my C equals 21. And I'm just going to do the discriminant part. That's all it asked me to find. So I'm just going to do that B squared minus 4AC piece. So B squared, put parentheses when you plug things in, guys, or you'll get the wrong answer. So -9 parentheses squared minus 4 times 1 times 21. So negative squared, and negative times a negative is a positive. 9 times 9 is 81 minus 4 times 1 is 21. Sorry, 1 times 21 is 21. 21 times 4 is going to make a 84. And so 81 minus 84, you can use a calculator, is -3. So if we think back up here, that means the thing under the square root is going to be a -3. We can't square root a negative number. So that means there is no solutions. So right here, this is the first answer. This is the discriminant. And then it says total number of solutions. Right here, there's your other answer. No solutions. So now you can do number 6. You can write these out on line paper, or you could have printed this paper, and when you're done, you're going to take a picture of the problems done and upload them to Canvas to your teacher.